Hello, everyone. Welcome to week 4. Today, we're diving into something really interesting called discretion and what it means for our hearts. Think of discretion like having a superpower to make really good choices, especially when things are tough. It's about listening to that quiet voice inside you that helps you know what's right. We'll explore how this inner wisdom can feel like tears of the soul. Not sad tears, but something much deeper. It's like when you finally understand something important and it just clicks. We're going to learn how to pay attention to these feelings and let them guide us. So get ready to discover a new way of looking at your feelings and choices. Let's jump in and see what these tears of the soul are all about. So, what exactly are these tears of the soul we're talking about? It's not about crying because you're sad or hurt, but more like a deep feeling that helps you understand yourself and others better. Imagine you're trying to solve a tricky math problem, and suddenly the answer just comes to you. That feeling of clarity and understanding, that's closer to what we mean. These tears are like little signals from your heart, telling you what's truly important. They help you see things clearly, almost like wiping away fog from a window. It's about connecting with your deepest feelings and letting them guide your actions. We'll see how these special feelings can actually help us grow and make better choices every day. Let's explore the different kinds of these tears next. Now that we know what these tears of the soul generally are, let's look at the 5 different kinds. Think of it like different levels in a video game, each one helping you grow a little more. Each type of tear helps us understand ourselves and our journey a bit better. It's like having different tools in your toolbox for different situations. These aren't just random feelings. They're steps on a path to becoming a more understanding and loving person. We'll start with the tears that are a bit more about us and our own struggles. It's a journey, and every step, every tear is important. So let's dive into the first kind of tears, the ones that help us get started right where we are. Today, we're starting with what we call imperfect tears. Don't let the word imperfect fool you. These tears are super important because they're where we all begin. Think of it like when you're learning to ride a bike. You might wobble, maybe even fall a few times, but you're still learning and making progress. These tears are about realizing our mistakes or feeling bad when we mess up. It's like when you accidentally hurt a friend's feelings and you feel a pang of regret. That feeling is a good thing because it helps you want to do better next time. It's about being honest with ourselves and wanting to grow. These tears are the first step to becoming a better person, and they show us we're on the right track. From here, we can move towards even deeper understanding. Now let's talk about perfect tears. These are like the ultimate level up in our journey, a really special gift. If imperfect tears are about realizing our mistakes, perfect tears are about feeling so much love and connection that it fills you up. Imagine you've helped a friend who was really sad, and you feel this amazing warmth in your heart, a deep joy. That's closer to perfect tears. It's not about being perfect ourselves, but about experiencing a perfect kind of love and understanding. These tears are a sign that we're truly connected to something bigger than ourselves, a feeling of deep peace and belonging. It's like a hug for your soul, a moment of pure union. This feeling of deep connection can then inspire us to share that love with everyone around us. Today, we're talking about how being thoughtful and wise helps us love our neighbors better. It's like being a good friend who knows just what to say or do. This isn't about being perfect, but about trying our best to be kind and understanding. When we use discretion, we think before we act, making sure our actions truly help others. It's like choosing the right words when someone is sad, instead of saying something that might make it worse. This kind of thoughtful love builds stronger friendships and a happier community. It's a gift we give to others, and it makes us feel good too. Let's think about how we can practice this in our daily lives. Now, let's find out why we cannot love God without loving our neighbor.
All right, let's jump right in. Today, we're tackling one of those huge questions of human existence, and we're going to do it with a little help from an ancient text and the incredible insight of a 14th century mystic. We're going to explore this wild idea that the people all around us, well, they're not just there. They're the very way we can actually live out the greatest commandment of all.
So think about it for a second. If you had to boil down all of morality, all of religion, everything into just one single rule to live by, what would it be? I mean, that is a question people have been wrestling with for thousands of years, and for a really good reason. The answer could literally be the compass for your entire life.
So where does this all come from? Well, our story kicks off almost 2,000 years ago, and it's recorded in the Gospel of Matthew. You've got this scholar of the law, an expert in all the rules, and he decides he's going to test this famous teacher, Jesus. Now, he's not just curious, this is a public challenge. He's trying to see if this guy really gets to the heart of it all.
And there it is, the ultimate question. Teacher, which commandment in the law is the greatest? I mean, can you imagine the weight of that moment? Out of hundreds of laws, which one is the absolute linchpin? Which one holds everything else up? He's basically asking, what is the entire point of all this? Now, this is where the answer gets really brilliant. Because Jesus doesn't just pick one rule from a long list. No. Instead, he gives an answer that's really a single command with two parts that you just can't separate. He completely reframes the whole thing, showing that it's not about ticking off boxes, but about this one holistic way of being. So first, he lays out the greatest one. Love God completely, with everything you've got, your heart, your soul, your mind. But he doesn't stop there. He immediately says the second is, like it, love your neighbor as yourself. And then he drops the mic, saying, the entire law, all the teachings of the prophets, everything hangs on these two things. Not two ideas, but one single, unified principle of love.
Okay, so for centuries, people have understood these two commandments. Love God, love your neighbor. Got it. But how do they really connect? How does loving the person who annoys you at work relate to loving an invisible God? Well, for that, we have to turn to the amazing insight of a 14th century mystic who gave us a powerful key to unlock this whole mystery.
Meet Saint Catherine of Siena. Born in Italy, she was this powerhouse thinker, a philosopher and theologian. Her writings, especially her famous book, The Dialogue, were so profound that centuries later, the Catholic Church named her a Doctor of the Church. That's a huge deal, a title for saints who've had a massive impact. And right at the heart of her work was a solution to a really big problem.
So here's the puzzle she was wrestling with. If God's love is infinite, and it's just given to us, a total gift, we didn't do anything to earn it, how can we, as tiny, finite people, ever possibly repay that? I mean, you can't give anything to a being that already has everything, right? It feels like this impossible debt. So how do we actually do that first great commandment? And Catherine's answer, oh, it's one of those things that's so simple, it's just absolutely genius. She basically argues that God knew we couldn't repay our debt of love directly, so he gave us a medium, a conduit, a way for our love to flow. And that medium, it's our neighbor.
This slide just lays out her logic perfectly. On the one hand, God's love for us is a gift. It's of grace. Our love for God in return is something we owe, but we can't pay it back directly. So what do? Look on the right. We repay that debt by loving our neighbor of free grace, meaning we love them freely without expecting anything back. We pour out the love we can't give to God onto the people around us.
And this quote, in her own words, just says it all. Catherine writes, from God's perspective, I've placed you in the midst of your fellows, that you may do to them that which you cannot do to me. Wow. So our daily interactions, our relationships, that's the spot, that's the arena where our love for God becomes real and tangible.
But it doesn't even stop there. This idea gets even more practical. If our neighbor is the medium for our love, Catherine says our relationships are also the testing ground, the proving ground, where our virtues are forged. I mean, it's easy to be patient when you're all alone on a mountaintop, right? Real patience is only proven when someone is really trying your patience.
According to Catherine, every single thing we do grows from one of two roots. The root of all virtue is charity, that pure love of God that just naturally overflows to our neighbor. And the root of all vice? Self-love.
She calls it the perverse root that poisons everything because it cuts us off from other people and just turns our focus inward. So how does this actually play out in real life? This table just breaks it down so beautifully. You don't prove your patience on someone who's also patient. You prove it on the person who hurts you. You show humility when you're faced with a proud person, kindness when you're dealing with cruelty. Our neighbors, yeah, especially the difficult ones, they aren't roadblocks to our spiritual life, they are the path.
Okay, so you might be thinking, that's a cool 700-year-old idea, but what does it have to do with me right now in my life? Well, it means that our search for meaning and purpose, it doesn't happen in a vacuum. It happens in our day-to-day interactions with real, live, sometimes annoying people.
So let's just boil this all down to the key takeaways. First, loving God and loving your neighbor, they're basically the same action. Second, we make that abstract love real by serving the people we can actually see and talk to. Third, those difficult people in our lives, they're not just a pain, they're opportunities to grow. And finally, the highest form of love is the kind you give away, no strings attached. At the end of the day, Catherine's wisdom is this powerful reminder that any belief system that doesn't lead to real, concrete, loving action towards other people is, well, it's incomplete. The ultimate expression of our highest ideals isn't found when we're alone. It's found together in the messy, beautiful, and challenging reality of community. And that really brings us to our final thought, because this isn't just some abstract theory, it's a really personal challenge. So if you look at your own life, at home, at work, out in the world, the question becomes, who is the neighbor that life has placed right in your path as the medium for you to practice love?
Question 1. Which of the stages or tiers of the soul do you most identify with right now? Model answer A. Somewhere between fear and love. If I'm being really honest, I think I'm somewhere between the second and third stage, between the tiers of fear and the tiers of beginning love. I don't think I'm still serving God mainly out of fear of hell, but I also know my love isn't very pure yet. I still get discouraged when prayer feels dry. I still feel more motivated to serve when people notice and appreciate it than when they don't. But what I find comforting about Catherine's teaching is that she doesn't say the imperfect stages are bad. They're just the beginning. God doesn't despise the soul who is still growing. He just keeps inviting her further in. That gives me a lot of hope. Why this is a good model answer? Honest self-assessment, uses Catherine's framework accurately, and ends with hope rather than discouragement. Question 1. Which of the stages or tiers of the soul do you most identify with right now? Model answer B. Moved by the fourth stage. I was really struck by the fourth kind of tears. The tears of those who love their neighbor perfectly, without any regard whatsoever for themselves. I don't think I'm there yet, but I've seen it in other people. I had a grandmother who prayed for others constantly, and she had this deep, quiet peace about her that I've never seen in anyone else. I think she was living in the fourth or fifth stage. Reading about it in Catherine made me realize that's what I want. Not just to be a good person, but to reach that place of selfless love. It feels very far away, but at least now I know it exists and that it's possible. Why this is a good model answer? Uses a personal witness, the grandmother, identifies a concrete aspiration, and shows how Catherine's teaching can inspire rather than overwhelm. Question 2. Catherine insists that love of God must overflow into love of neighbor. Where do you feel this call in your own life? Model answer A. The person I keep avoiding. There's someone in my life, a family member, who is very difficult to be around. For a long time, I told myself that my prayer life and my relationship with that person were separate things. But Catherine's teaching made me see that they can't be. If my love for God is real, it has to reach even the people I find hardest to love. I haven't fully acted on this yet, but I've started praying for this person every day. And I've noticed that my heart has softened a little, not because they've changed, but because I've been asking God to love them through me. that feels like a small beginning of what Catherine is describing. Why this is a good model answer, vulnerable and specific, shows the connection between prayer and action, and demonstrates realistic spiritual growth. Question 2. Catherine insists that love of God must overflow into love of neighbor. Where do you feel this call in your own life? Model answer B, small overflows. I used to think love of neighbor meant big things: volunteering, giving to charity, going on mission trips. And those things are good. But Catherine's teaching helped me see that the overflow of love for God can happen in tiny moments. Listening patiently when I'd rather check my phone. Saying a kind word to someone who looks tired. Letting someone go ahead of me in traffic. The weekly challenge this week, one small hidden act of service, really resonated with me. I think God is more interested in the quality of love behind the small acts than the size of the grand gestures. I want to start paying more attention to the small overflows. Why this is a good model answer. Reframes love of neighbor in accessible, everyday terms, connects directly to the weekly challenge, and is practical and actionable. Question 3. How can we serve others without losing our connection to the inner cell? Model answer A, bring the cell with you. I used to think the inner cell was a place, like a quiet room where I go to pray. But Catherine says it's something you carry with you. The inner cell is a state of heart, not a physical location. So the question isn't, how do I get back to my prayer room after serving others? It's, how do I serve others while remaining inwardly connected to God? For me, that means small habits. A quick prayer before a difficult conversation. Offering up a frustrating task to God. Pausing for a breath before reacting. These are tiny ways of keeping the inner cell open, even in the middle of a busy, serving life. It's a work in progress, but I think that's what Catherine means. Why this is a good model answer? Corrects a common misunderstanding, the cell as a place, offers practical micro habits, and is honest about the ongoing nature of the work. Question 3. How can we serve others without losing our connection to the inner cell? Model answer B, serving from fullness, not emptiness. I think the key is serving from a place of fullness rather than emptiness. When I skip prayer and try to serve anyway, I get depleted quickly. I become impatient, resentful, and burned out. But when I've spent real time with God first, I find I have something to give. The service flows naturally, rather than feeling forced. Catherine's teaching helped me understand that the inner cell isn't something I protect from the world. It's the source from which I engage the world. If the cell is empty, the service will be empty too. So keeping the inner cell alive is not a luxury for contemplatives. It's the only way active service stays genuinely loving. Why this is a good model answer. Addresses the practical danger of burnout, distinguishes serving from fullness versus emptiness, and shows the deep connection between contemplation and action. All right, it's time for our weekly challenge, and this one is all about putting our learning into action. This week, we want to focus on showing discretion in our interactions. It's about being mindful of others' feelings and needs. Maybe it's choosing to listen more than we speak, or thinking about how our words might land before we say them. It could be noticing someone who needs a little extra kindness and finding a thoughtful way to help them. This challenge isn't about grand gestures, but about small, everyday acts of thoughtful love. You've got this, and I know you'll make a difference. Next up, we have some reading to help us continue our journey. To help us continue thinking about these important ideas, we have some reading for this week. This reading will give us more insights and examples of how discretion and love go hand in hand. It's a chance to dive a little deeper into the topic on your own time. Think of it as a way to keep the conversation going in your mind. You might even discover new ways to apply what we've talked about today. Don't feel like you have to rush through it. Take your time and really think about what you're reading. It's a great way to grow in your understanding. Finally, we'll wrap things up with a closing thought. As we come to the end of our time together, let us leave with this simple but powerful message. Go and love. Remember, loving our neighbor isn't always easy, but it's always worth it. It's about showing up for each other with kindness, understanding, and that special ingredient of discretion we talked about today. Think about how we can carry this message into our week, into our friendships, and into our family. Even small acts of love can create big ripples. We have the power to make a positive difference in the world, one thoughtful act at a time. Next, in week 5, we will discuss the treatise of prayer, which is about learning to speak with God. Thank you for being here today, and remember to go and spread that love. May God bless us always.